In recent years, Tom Brady pretty much ended the GOAT debate in the NFL that even led to some of his staunchest critics to retract some of their earlier comments made about the QB.
Tom Brady's just about done. It could be his next game he plays, it could be a year from now, but he is going to fall off a cliff.
I was wrong. Tom Brady never fell off a cliff.
Tom Brady is not a good quarterback anymore. We saw it again this weekend. He's the man who wrote Dewey Defeats Truman, and nearly 100 years later, finally somebody has a worse take. And it's my last 5 years of Tom Brady takes.
While Tom has solidified himself forever in GOAT tier status, that doesn't mean along the way there weren't a few bumps along the road. Just like everyone else, we're all prone to having a day off in the office, but in Brady's case, some of these pundits and analysts began turning their back on the QB.
But first and foremost, I blame Tom Brady.
Can you say that louder?
You've heard me just then. Tom Brady on this play, on the play of the game for the New England Patriots, the one that ices the game in my opinion. Tom Brady made a poor throw to a wide open Wes Welker. A poor throw to a wide open Wes Welker. If Tom Brady makes the right throw and hits Wes Welker in stride in the hands, we are having a whole different conversation right now.
That being said, here's the list of the top 5 ugliest games in Tom Brady's Hall of Fame career.
Run it back.
Throughout their head-to-head battles, Tom Brady got the best of Peyton Manning more often than not when the pair faced off. The Brady vs. Manning battle tilts 11-6 in Tom's favor after he won the first 6 consecutive meetings. However, Manning has a slight edge in the postseason. And the final segment of this rivalry would occur in the 2015 AFC Championship game when Tom Brady and the New England Patriots traveled to Mile High to face Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. This was a dream matchup for the league as it pitted two of the greatest QBs of all time in a do-or-die situation. Denver were led by their top-ranked defense that included the no-fly zone secondary and arguably the best pass rusher in the league at the time in Von Miller and a host of other key members on the roster. So this was always going to be a stern test for Tom Brady against a Wade Phillips-led defense. And in the early stages, the QB struggled a lot, being forced to punt the ball in his first 3 possessions. After going down 7-0, the Patriots would catch a break after the team challenged a forward pass and the play overturned a ruled fumble, setting up the Pats offense at the 22-yard line. Brady would drive the ball right to the 1-yard line before Steven Jackson punched it in for a score. However, a failed extra point saw the Pats trail by 1. Then early in the second quarter, Tom would commit a huge mistake as he was uncharacteristically undercut in coverage by Von Miller on a pass intended for Rob Gronkowski. You can tell the QB was facing pressure from all sides of the Broncos pass rush, and it was forcing him to get rid of the ball fast. Denver scored a TD on their next ensuing drive before the Patriots pulled 3 back with a field goal. And Tom Brady's struggles continued right before the half as he committed his second interception of the game as he was picked off by Darian Stewart. With the score 20-12 for the home team, Brady had a couple 4th down opportunities to tie the match late in the game but missed or fell short on both occasions. And with less than 2 minutes left, he orchestrated one last drive and connected with Gronk on 4th and goal to put the Pats down by 2. And as we've seen time and time again throughout his career, Tom had a chance to set up a comeback win with a 2-point conversion, but threw an incomplete pass to Julian Edelman, thus ending the game 20-18. Although he threw for over 300 yards, it was a lackluster performance from the QB who completed less than 50% of his passes, threw 2 picks, and got sacked 4 times in the game. Denver's defense clearly got the better of Tom on this day as their front 7 was in his face all game. Guys, before we continue, if you enjoy this content and want to see more NFL news and stories, make sure you subscribe and smash that like button as it really helps promote these videos across the YouTube platform. By now, we all know that Tom Brady is undeniably the most clutch quarterback when it matters most, and nowhere would it matter most than in the playoffs. However, there was one particular playoff game midway through Tom's career where he was made to look rather pedestrian. In 2009, the New England Patriots were coming off a 10-6 season and hosted the Baltimore Ravens at Gillette Stadium. Prior to this game, the Pats had won all 5 of their previous encounters with the Ravens, but this was going to be the first playoff game for this rivalry. And Baltimore got out of the gates running, scoring 24 points in the first quarter that was ignited by an 83-yard TD run from Ray Rice to start the game. Tom then got strip sacked in his own 26 by Terrell Suggs, giving the Baltimore offense the ball in the red zone, and they converted to take a 14-0 lead. The third score of the quarter came off another Tom Brady blunder midway through the first quarter when he was picked off throwing a terrible pass down the middle to no one, giving the away team another short field where they converted for 7. Trailing 24-0, Brady would pull one back after John Harbaugh failed to challenge a muff punt when it was clear in video replay that Kyle Arrington did not secure the football as he was going out of bounds. From Baltimore's 6, Tom connected with Julian Edelman, putting the Pats on the board. The home team trailed 24-7 going into the tunnel, and the second half didn't prove to be much different. The Ravens defense consistently closed down space and eventually were rewarded with another turnover when Brady threw a dangerous deep pass down the right to Ben Watson. Baltimore converted for a field goal to take a 27-7 lead. Tom would pull one back before the third quarter, but the game was essentially over. The Ravens finished the Pats off, scoring another in the fourth as they secured their first win against New England. The Patriots QB had a horrendous afternoon, completing about half of his passes for 154 yards while throwing 3 picks and taking 3 sacks along with a fumble. Brady had a passer rating of 49.1, but to top it all off, the opposing QB Joe Flacco only completed 4 passes for 34 yards, but still managed to get the W. This was the first ugly playoff loss for the franchise under the Brady-Belichick era, and after the game, many began questioning whether this was the end of a dynasty. We had never seen the Patriots get outplayed so badly and at home to the point where Pats fans began booing their own team. In 2014 on Monday Night Football, in front of a national audience, in front of millions, the New England Patriots traveled to Arrowhead Stadium in Week 4 to face the Kansas City Chiefs. New England entered the season as a third favorite to lift the Lombardi, and while the Pats came into this game with a 2-1 record, Brady didn't particularly look impressive in either outing, so this was going to be a statement game to get the team back on track and put up a strong away performance. However, things didn't go as planned, and Kansas City would come out strong in the first half. With Tom struggling to get the offense rolling, the home team got the lead through a couple of TD runs from Jamal Charles, who the Patriots D had a very tough time containing. Add on top of that, Justin Houston and Tom Brady being an absolute nightmare and virtually shutting down the Pats' run game, as Tom only managed to get 1 drive in KC territory in the first half. With Kansas City up 17-0, Tom Brady and company had their work cut out for them. But it wouldn't matter because Brady continued to struggle and began turning over the football. Early in the third quarter, the QB was strip sacked by Tom Brady, losing possession of the football, and then later threw 2 picks, with one being returned for 6 and putting the game out of reach. Down 41-7, Bill Belichick made the decision to pull Brady in favor of rookie Jimmy Garoppolo to finish out the remainder of the game, a game that would be later known as the Arrowhead Massacre. As the clock began to tick to signal the end, television cameras panned to the Patriots bench and zoomed in on a dejected Brady while displaying his stats for the evening. This was clearly a night to forget for the 3-time Super Bowl champ, but some in the media after the game weren't going to be as generous with the QB. Tom was 37 at this point, at a time when most QBs would be somewhat on the downhill part of their careers. So with Brady looking like a shell of himself, there was actually a bit of speculation about his future in Foxborough following the loss, which even led to one reporter to have the nerve to question if Tom Brady's job as the starting QB was safe.
The quarterback position be evaluated
After leaving the Patriots to take his talents down south, Tom Brady was in his first season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when he experienced one of the most ugliest defeats of his career. This time, it would be against division rivals Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. The two teams had met up in Week 1 of the 2020 season, where the Saints came away with a home win, giving Drew a 4-2 record against Tom in head-to-head matchups. So in the Week 9 rematch, the Bucs had a chance to exact revenge at home, and they were one of the hottest teams in the league. Tom was playing at an MVP caliber level and led the Bucs to a 6-2 record up until this point. This game was played on Sunday Night Football in front of a national audience and billed to be a game for the ages as the two teams were fighting for a top spot in the division. In the first quarter, the away team got to a quick 14-0 lead as Brady went 3-and-out on his first 3 drives. And soon the Saints began piling the points on right before the half as the Bucs QB committed 2 costly turnovers and soon found his team trailing 31-0 by halftime. With the game out of reach in the second half, Tom was picked off for a third time, ending his horrible evening before managing to get his team on the score sheet with a meaningless 3 points to avoid further embarrassment. The game ended 38-3 for the Saints, who now had a 1-game cushion for first in the NFC South. Also, some key interesting stats from this game: the Bucs set the record for the least amount of rush attempts in a single game in NFL history, while Tom Brady suffered the largest margin of defeat in his 22-year career, and the last time the 44-year-old recorded that many interceptions in a game was back in 2011 against the Buffalo Bills. So after this game, you knew all the Brady naysayers were going to come out of the woodwork.
To say Tom Brady's struggle is a slap in the face to struggling. Thomas, Edward, Jameis, Winston, Brady, Sr. looked awful.
If you thought the Saints game was a shellacking, wait till you hear what happened in Week 1 of the 2003 season. After missing the 0-2 playoffs, Tom Brady and company traveled to Buffalo to face former teammate Drew Bledsoe and the Buffalo Bills. And to be honest, this game hits me a little more as I was actually in attendance at Ralph Wilson Stadium for my first NFL game. And I don't really recall much because the day was filled with a lot of booze and tailgating. Anyways, Buffalo got off to a quick lead, scoring on their opening drive and then another score to open the second quarter. Then midway through the quarter, Brady threw a terrible pick right to Sam Adams, who bulldozed his way down the right to complete the pick 6. And right before the end of the half, Tom suffered his 3rd sack of the game, and this one was to former Patriot defensive captain Lawyer Milloy, who was shockingly cut the week earlier for refusing to take a pay cut. Not much changed in the second half as Brady threw 2 more picks for a total of 4 for the afternoon as the Bills went on to demolish their division rivals 31-0, handing Tom his first of 3 career games where he came away with a donut. The other 2 times where Brady got shut out was against the Dolphins in 2006 and last season against the Saints. So this was clearly the worst game of his career as he only managed to muster a mere 123 passing yards off of 14 completions, 0 touchdowns to 4 picks, 2 sacks, and a career low passer rating of 22.5. And after this game, Bills Mafia actually thought they were going to the Super Bowl, but it turned out that excitement wouldn't last too long as after Week 8, the 4-4 Bills lost 6 of their final 8 games. New England, on the other hand, finished the campaign going 14-2 and lifting the Lombardi Trophy after they eased past the Carolina Panthers in Super Bowl 38. All in all, while it's perfectly normal to have bad games, there are only a handful who can bounce back after a crushing defeat and turn things around. And that's one of the things to admire about Tom Brady. Even after getting knocked out and sometimes even trolled by the media, Tom took it in stride and always came back stronger.